People didn't notice him at first. He stepped off Flight 216 from Tucson into the heart of Hartsfield-Jackson like a shadow that asked for nothing. Black jacket, crisp white gloves, hat low, back straight. His name was Dorian Ellison, and he wasn't here for comfort or vacation. He was here to bring someone home. The casket rolled down the ramp in silence, flag folded tight across the top. No scratches, no dirt, just stars and stripes. Dorian's hand stayed steady on the platform, his body moving beside it as if the rest of the world didn't exist. That was the oath. That was the discipline. You protect the honor of the fallen like your life depends on it, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. He had done this before. It never got easier. This one was Staff Sergeant Lennox Rafford, 29, 2 kids in Fresno. Took a hit that wasn't meant for him. Dorian didn't know him personally, but he knew of him, the kind of soldier who took the night shift without complaint, let his team eat first, kept jokes light even when the days were heavy. Now he was coming home. Dorian's steps were measured, not showy, boots falling in perfect cadence, like they were stitched to the floor. Slowly, people began to notice. A couple at the windows lowered their coffee cups. A teenager slipped one earbud out. TSA agents leaned closer. "That's a tomb guard," one whispered. "Arlington." The other just nodded. But not everyone understood what they were seeing. As Dorian neared the bottom of the jet bridge, something shifted, not in him, but around him. A junior security officer, mid-20s, clipboard in hand, rushed toward him from a side hallway. "Excuse me, sir," she called out. He didn't stop. "Sir, I need to see your access credentials." His eyes didn't leave the casket. His voice was calm, direct. "Ma'am, I'm in the process of escorting a fallen soldier to ground transport. I am not to be delayed." There was no anger, no pride, just truth. She wasn't convinced. "I understand, but this area is restricted. I wasn't informed of any official procession. If you don't have clearance, I need to report this immediately." Now the terminal was truly watching. Dorian stopped, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. His grip on the platform tightened, just slightly. "Ma'am," he said again, low but steady, "step aside, please." "I'm just following protocol," she replied, stepping closer. "If something happens—" Behind her, a Delta maintenance worker, gray-bearded, vest on, approached with careful steps. "Maybe just call a supervisor," he said gently. "I am the supervisor on this concourse," she snapped, more defensively now. The crowd froze. No phones, no movement. And still, Dorian didn't flinch. Then she reached toward the flag. That's when it happened. A voice from across the concourse, not loud, but sharp enough to cut the air. "Don't touch that flag." Before the officer could respond, the woman behind the voice was already moving, fast, steady, eyes locked. Tasha Pennington, late 40s, navy blouse, flat shoes worn from 2 decades on her feet. She wasn't rushing, but there was urgency in every step. Tasha had worked that airport 23 years, seen celebrities scream over delays, watched boys before boot camp. But this was something else. She didn't even look at the officer. Her eyes were on the casket. "Step back," she said, calm but unyielding. "Ma'am, I was just following—" "I said step back." Her voice didn't rise, but it landed hard. "You can write me up if you want, but that man is not to be stopped, and you do not put hands on that flag." Dorian finally looked up. Just a flicker. He saw the small gold cross beneath her badge. She turned to him, and for the first time since landing, something in his face softened. "My father did 3 tours in Nam," she said quietly. "Used to tell me the honor guard gave his friends dignity. Said they came home different because of men like you." He gave the slightest nod. "I saw your badge number when you walked through. Didn't say anything then. But when I saw her try to stop you—" She glanced at the young officer, who now looked lost. I wasn't gonna let that happen. The silence had thickened. 20, maybe 30 people now, still watching. A teenager leaned toward an older man near the back. Is he a soldier? The man didn't look away. Not just a soldier. That's Arlington. Tomb guard. The officer's voice cracked as she looked back at the casket. I didn't realize. I thought it was cargo protocol. Tasha's tone stayed firm, but not unkind. That's not cargo. That's someone's son. Someone's father, maybe. And that man is walking him home for the last time. The officer stared at the flag. Her voice dropped. I'm sorry. Dorian didn't speak. He didn't need to. He simply took one step forward, then another, and this time, no one got in his way. Tasha fell into step beside him, not out of duty, but something deeper. I'll walk with you to the van, she said, just in case someone else forgets what that uniform means. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. All around them, the terminal held its breath, and a soldier walked his brother home. When Staff Sergeant Lennox Rayford came home, he didn't walk off the plane. He was carried, beneath a flag wrapped tight in honor, silence, and sacrifice. When Staff Sergeant Lennox Rayford came home, he didn't walk off the plane. He was carried, beneath a flag wrapped tight in honor, silence, and sacrifice. The man who walked beside him was Dorian Ellison. Flight 216 from Tucson had just landed at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, but Dorian wasn't here for rest or reunion. He was here for duty. His uniform, crisp. His gloves, white. His posture, unshaken. He was an honor guard, Arlington trained, and this was sacred ground. No one noticed at first. Just another passenger walking with purpose. But when they saw the casket, the flag, something shifted. Heads turned. Coffee cups lowered. A boy pulled his headphones down. A whisper started. Is that a soldier? No, that's a tomb guard, Arlington. Scene, jet bridge, movement halts. And then, just as Dorian reached the bottom of the ramp, a voice cut through the quiet. Excuse me, sir, I need to see your access credentials. He didn't stop walking, didn't blink. Ma'am, I am currently escorting a fallen soldier to ground transport. I am not to be delayed. But she stepped in front of him. I wasn't informed of any ceremony. If you don't have clearance, I need to radio this in. Scene. Tension rises. Crowd now watching. Dorian stopped, not by choice, but because duty demanded it. His hands never left the casket. His voice stayed level. Step aside, please. Then, and then, a voice cut across the terminal, quiet, commanding. Don't touch that flag. Enter Tasha Pennington, late 40s, airport operations veteran, flat shoes, navy blouse, badge and cross pinned to her collar. Tasha didn't run. She didn't need to. She walked with authority only earned by years and worn souls. Step back, she said. But I was just... You don't touch that flag. You don't stop that man. Write me up if you want, but not today. Dorian looked at her, just once. The slightest nod, the only thank you he'd give. My father did 3 tours in Vietnam, she said. Said it was the honor guard that brought his brothers home, right. The crowd grew. No phones up, just eyes, just silence. A silence that wrapped around the casket like armor. Scene. Security steps aside. Dorian moves forward. Tasha fell in beside him, not because she had to, because it was right. I'll walk with you to the van, she said, in case someone else forgets what that uniform means. Scene. Terminal stills as they pass. People stepped aside. A few removed their hats. A security guard saluted from beside a vending machine. Dorian never acknowledged them. That wasn't his job. But he felt it. The respect.
the gravity. Because it didn't matter if they knew the soldier's name. What mattered was that he mattered. Sane, loading dock, transfer van waiting. Tasha stopped at the sliding doors. "You didn't have to speak up," Dorian said. "I know, but it was the right thing." "Do you ever get tired of this?" she asked. Dorian looked at the flag, then back at her. "No." "Why not?" He paused.
"Because every time I do this, it means someone else doesn't have to." "Who stopped this procession?" he asked. Not angry, just clear. The junior officer raised her hand. "It was me, sir." "What protocol were you following that called for stopping a casket escort?" I didn't recognize the clearance. I didn't realize." "You thought wrong," he said. "We brief on this every quarter. You don't stop the honor guard, you don't touch the flag." Tasha stepped in. She didn't mean harm, she just didn't know. Hanford nodded, but didn't back down. "Then now she does, and now everyone else does too." He turned to Dorian. "On behalf of TSA and this airport, you have our deepest apologies." Dorian simply said, "It's not about me. It's about who I'm walking with." Scene complete. Casket loaded, van doors close. A Vietnam vet by the driver's side stood and saluted. No one told him to, he just did. Tasha turned to Dorian one last time. "I've worked here over 2 decades, seen a lot of people come through. Never seen anyone carry themselves like you." "It's not for show," Dorian replied. "It's for the fallen." And that was it. He climbed in, doors closed, no music, no fanfare. Just the sound of the van pulling into a humid Georgia afternoon. Scene epilogue. But the story didn't end there. Jerome Thacker, a truck driver from Shreveport, had watched from gate C-42. Didn't mean to film, hated when people did. But something about Dorian made him press record. A quiet 90-second video. No edits, no filters. Just one man walking a fallen brother home. He posted it with a simple caption. "Tomb guards stopped by airport security. Man didn't even blink. Carried that casket like he was walking on sacred ground." He went to bed with 7 likes. By morning, it had over 2 million. Because sometimes the world needs a reminder of what respect looks like when no one's looking. Views poured in by the millions, but the comments told a deeper story. Not just reactions, memories. People shared about fathers who never came home, brothers who returned changed, cousins who stood in silent tribute at distant funerals. Near the top of the thread, one post read, "My brother served in the 3rd Infantry. He said tomb guards are the reason people still believe in honor." Another simply said, "That woman in the Navy shirt, that's Tasha. She's worked the Delta desk in Atlanta forever. Helped me track down my mom's lost bag. Of course she stepped in." And another, "That guard didn't flinch, not once. God bless him." Tasha hadn't seen the video yet. She was too busy working a double shift, rerouting flights after a thunderstorm grounded half the morning departures. But that afternoon, in the break room, someone showed it to her. She watched it silently, watched herself step into frame and say, "Don't touch that flag." Watched Dorian remain unshaken, unbothered, holding the weight of a nation's grief on his shoulders. And then a voice, barely audible in the background, asked, "Do you even know who he is?" No one knew who said it, but it echoed, quiet and sharp. That night, in a motel outside Mon, Georgia, Dorian sat on the edge of a twin bed, boots off, remote untouched. The casket had been delivered hours earlier. Tomorrow was the memorial. He would stand in the back, unnoticed. He checked his phone, a missed call from Captain Riley, a few texts from his team, and a link. He watched it, then again, the video, that walk, that moment, that voice, Tasha's. He didn't care about going viral, he didn't want attention. That wasn't why he wore the gloves, the hat, took those measured steps. He did it for Staff Sergeant Lennox Rafford, because Lennox had done his part, and now it was Dorian's turn to carry him home. Still, something about the clip stuck. Not that people saw him, but that they saw what mattered. The act, the respect, the line that should never be crossed. He shut off his phone and stared at the wall. Hundreds of miles away in Fresno, California, Janelle Rafford sat in her modest living room, surrounded by silence. Her phone buzzed again, the 7th time in under an hour. Friends, family, neighbors, all sending the same link. At first, she didn't open it. She was still neck-deep in grief, arrangements, explanations to 2 little boys who didn't understand why their dad wasn't coming home. But eventually, she tapped play. The video shook, but the message was clear. A man in uniform, steady, reverent. Someone tried to interrupt, and another stepped in. She saw the flag. She saw her husband's final journey. She cried, but not like before, not raw and fractured. This was softer, deeper. Her oldest, Brylan, wandered in mid-video. "Mom, what's that?" She wiped her eyes. A video, someone bringing Daddy home. Brylan stood beside her, squinting. "Is that him?" "No," she said, pointing. "That's the guard. He looks serious. He's supposed to. That's part of his job." "Is he sad?" "I think so," she whispered, "but he's not allowed to show it." They watched together. When it ended, Brylan looked up. "Can I meet him someday?" She didn't answer. Not right away. Back in Atlanta, Tasha sat outside the staff entrance, half a granola bar in one hand, phone in the other, watching the video again. Her mind drifted, 25 years back. Her dad, Royce Pennington, in his Army tee, pointing at a Memorial Day ceremony on the TV. "See those boys in the white gloves? They don't blink, don't break. Guard the tomb day and night, rain or shine. Why? Because some folks gave everything. It's our job to remember." She hadn't understood then. She did now. Her dad passed in 2011, a quiet stroke. But his words stuck. Honor wasn't abstract. It was real. A thing you held. A thing you passed down. That moment with Dorian wasn't about going viral. It was about stepping in when someone forgets what respect looks like. She tucked her phone away and stood. As she opened the door, a pilot she didn't know nodded and said, "Saw the video. You did right." She smiled, small and quiet, and walked inside. But the story wasn't finished. Someone had a message for Dorian Ellison, and they wouldn't rest until he heard it. 2 days later, Dorian was back at the same airport, same boots, same uniform, same silence. But this time, he wasn't escorting anyone. He was heading back to D.C., back to the 3rd Infantry, back to Arlington. Only now, something felt different. The weight was still there, just shaped differently. As he passed through the concourse, people noticed. A woman near the newsstand leaned to her friend and whispered, "That's him." People in the comments weren't just reacting, they were telling stories. Stories about fathers who never came home, brothers who did, but never came back the same. Cousins who stood in the rain for hours just to salute someone they'd barely known. One comment read, "My brother served in the 3rd Infantry. He said the tomb guards are the reason people still believe in honor."
That woman in the Navy shirt, that's Tasha. She's been at the Delta desk in Atlanta forever. She helped me find my mom's bag once. Of course she stepped in. That guard didn't flinch. Not once. God bless him. Tasha hadn't seen the video yet. She was working another double, helping reroute flights after a thunderstorm delayed the morning boardings. Someone showed it to her in the break room that afternoon. She watched it without blanking. She saw herself walk into frame and say, "Don't touch that flag." She saw Dorian Ellison, silent, unmoving. And then she heard a woman's voice in the crowd. "Do you even know who he is?" No one knew exactly who said it, but it echoed through the video like a stone dropped in still water. That evening, in a modest motel room in Monroe, Georgia, Dorian sat on the edge of the bed, boots off, phone in hand. He'd already dropped the casket off at the funeral home. Tomorrow, he'd stand at the back of the memorial, like he always did. He wasn't there to be seen. One missed call from Captain Riley, 3 texts from guys on base, and then a link. He tapped it. There he was on screen. That walk, that moment, Tasha's voice. He didn't care about going viral. That wasn't why he wore the gloves. Wasn't why he moved with measured steps. He did it because Staff Sergeant Lennox Rafford had done his part, and now it was Dorian's turn to carry him home. Still, something about the clip stayed with him. Not because people noticed him, but because they noticed the act, the silence, the stillness, the respect, the fact that there are things you don't interrupt. Hundreds of miles away, in a sun-worn house outside Fresno, Janelle Rafford sat on the couch. Her phone buzzed, again and again. Friends, family, old neighbors, all sending the same video. At first, she didn't want to open it. She was exhausted. Grief, paperwork, funeral planning, and the impossible task of explaining to two little boys that their father wouldn't be coming home. But curiosity won out. She pressed play, and her eyes locked on the screen. The camera shook, but she saw it. The man in uniform, the walk, the tension, the woman who stepped in, the argument, the silence, the steady steps forward. She cried, but not like before. Not the loud, broken sobs from when the knock came at the door. This time, it was quieter, gentler. She didn't know his name, but the way he moved, the way he honored her husband without knowing him, it felt like something holy. Her son, Braylon, walked in dragging his backpack.
That woman in the Navy shirt, that's Tasha. She's been at the Delta desk in Atlanta forever. She helped me find my mom's bag once. Of course she stepped in. That guard didn't flinch, not once. God bless him. Tasha hadn't seen the video yet. She was working another double, helping reroute flights after a thunderstorm delayed the morning boardings. Someone showed it to her in the break room that afternoon. She watched it without blanking. She saw herself walk into frame and say, "Don't touch that flag." She saw Dorian Ellison, silent, unmoving. And then she heard a woman's voice in the crowd. "Do you even know who he is?" No one knew exactly who said it, but it echoed through the video like a stone dropped in still water. That evening, in a modest motel room in Monroe, Georgia, Dorian sat on the edge of the bed, boots off, phone in hand. He'd already dropped the casket off at the funeral home. Tomorrow, he'd stand at the back of the memorial, like he always did. He wasn't there to be seen. One missed call from Captain Riley, 3 texts from guys on base, and then a link. He tapped it. There he was on screen. That walk, that moment, Tasha's voice. He didn't care about going viral. That wasn't why he wore the gloves. Wasn't why he moved with measured steps. He did it because Staff Sergeant Lennox Rafford had done his part, and now it was Dorian's turn to carry him home. Still, something about the clip stayed with him. Not because people noticed him, but because they noticed the act, the silence, the stillness, the respect, the fact that there are things you don't interrupt. Hundreds of miles away, in a sun-worn house outside Fresno, Janelle Rafford sat on the couch. Her phone buzzed, again and again. Friends, family, old neighbors, all sending the same video. At first, she didn't want to open it. She was exhausted. Grief, paperwork, funeral planning, and the impossible task of explaining to 2 little boys that their father wouldn't be coming home. But curiosity won out. She pressed play, and her eyes locked on the screen. The camera shook, but she saw it. The man in uniform, the walk, the tension, the woman who stepped in, the argument, the silence, the steady steps forward. She cried, but not like before. Not the loud, broken sobs from when the knock came at the door. This time, it was quieter, gentler. She didn't know his name, but the way he moved, the way he honored her husband without knowing him, it felt like something holy. Her son, Braylon, walked in dragging his backpack. "Mom, what's that?" She wiped her eyes. "It's a video of the man who brought Daddy home." He stared at the screen. "Is that him?" "No, baby, that's the guard." "He looks serious." "He's supposed to. That's part of his job." "Is he sad?" "I think so, but he's not allowed to show it." Braylon leaned against her, and together they watched. When it ended, he looked up. "Can I meet him someday?" She didn't answer right away. Back in Atlanta,
Tasha sat on a bench near the staff entrance, half-eaten granola bar in one hand, phone in the other. She was watching the video again, but her mind was somewhere else, 25 years back. She remembered her dad, Royce Pennington, standing in their living room, pointing to the TV on Memorial Day. See those boys in white gloves? Yeah. They don't blink. They don't break. They guard the tomb 24 hours a day, rain or shine. Why? Because some folks gave everything, and it's our job to remember. She hadn't understood it then. She did now. That moment with Dorian, it wasn't about going viral. It was about stepping in when someone forgets what respect looks like. But the story wasn't done. Not yet. Because someone had a message for Dorian Ellison, and they weren't going to rest until he heard it. 2 days later, Dorian walked through the same airport. Same boots, same uniform, but this time no casket. Just a return flight to D.C. He wasn't looking for attention. He wanted to get back to the tomb. Back to where silence meant something sacred. At gate D17, a Delta employee approached, flustered but smiling beneath it. "Are you Dorian Ellison?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She handed him a folded note. "Someone left this for you, said you'd be coming through." He unfolded it. "I don't know your story, but you helped carry mine. My husband was Staff Sergeant Lennox Rafford. I saw what you did. My son saw it too. Thank you for treating him like he still mattered. You didn't speak, but we heard you. Janelle Rafford." He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there. Then, quietly, he folded the note and placed it in his jacket. Not like a letter, like something that needed to be carried. The gate agent hesitated. "There's one more thing. I know it's unusual, but—" She gestured over her shoulder. Near the boarding lane, about 20 people stood in a quiet line. Airport workers, passengers, a janitor holding a mop. No signs, no speeches, just standing, shoulder to shoulder. Hats off, hands over hearts. And then silence. A signal passed, and they all turned toward him. Still silent. No applause, no music, just respect. And it spread, down the terminal. People who didn't know the story slowed their steps. Some stopped. Some removed their hats, placed hands on hearts, because the moment asked for it. A child tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Why's everyone stopping?" She whispered, "Because that man did something for someone who couldn't do it for themselves." And for the first time in days, Dorian felt it. Not praise, not recognition, understanding.